rewrite the role of the judges who pro-critical education. They have an obligation to break the oppressive biases, status quo raptures, use violence to smother critical thought. Fighting pressure requires judges make debate space for challenging social norms. Giroux 1. Potential democratic values violence reach a breaking point. Telltale state violence, smother critical thought. In the United States, power is the people. The state is incorporated instead ideals backed up by command, backed up by militarization. Ethical and political age-shaped life, which aid involves into anti-intellectual foolish education is crucial. To overcome the crisis, educators must reclaim education. To be critically agents. The role of the ballot is to endorse a more productive liberation strategy for the oppressed. Part 2, it's the institution. Private corporations are taking over public colleges in the status quo. Applegate. Sure found increased privatizations, public universities, indicating shifting 8.2%, reaching $30 billion in donations. UC Berkeley, UCLA, UC San Francisco, increased efforts to raise private funds through emulating private universities, and this entrenches neoliberalism, shutting out those who don't meet corporate needs. Chatterjee et al. Neoliberalism tried to make transfer active scholarship into quantifiable knowledge. We can choose not to market our scholarship with honor work further value with the academy. Scholars who tackle state violence, settle colonialism, active dominance, confront style of tenure, not having contracts renewed or never being hired. Worse, this squashed dissent when people take up schools to fight back, making true change impossible. Godridge 1. Neoliberal University of California intertwined with criminalization of dissent. It is able to squash the public dissent by casting this discreet criminal, enterprise and higher discourage further dissent taking place. Legal criminalization demonstrates collusion university and state authorities in defense of private capital, where universities not criminalized and faculty appears to assist states even when charged their drop protesters are left financing their illegal defense of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Is literally made prohibitively expensive. Thus the advocacy. Public colleges and universities in the United States ought not restrict any constitutionally protected speech. Part 3 is free your mind, instead free speech exposes individual power imbalances and checks back oppression. Doing nothing is doing something. Active engagement with the state is key to avoid complicity with injustice. Opara 2. To address militarization and interrogation, the Imperial University must make this reliance on prison industrial complex called dedicated knowledge elite whose prison boards is not a universalized majority. Instead, in order lead institution in higher education guarantee protection, students choose not to ally themselves with elites or sheer silently to patriotic correctness. Instead, confront the neoliberal state can be removed by position of privilege. And critique within the academy draws attention to neoliberal injustices. Empirics prove Opara 2. In 2001, student activists working campaign Not Our Money drew attention to connection to the private prison industrial complex and privatization services campuses. Applicants to Dexo, Marriott, a leading provider of food service in colleges, own more than 10% of all corrections corporations in America. Students organized, in fact, a series of local campaign campuses, leading to cancellation of contracts in a number of schools. The campaign revealed only the tip of the iceberg, and freedom to speak out is the first step towards a radical new knowledge production. Opara 3. Active scholars producing countercultural knowledge, bringing active research into alignment with social movements themselves. We must liberate the academy from neoliberal interrogating our college decisions, setting up provisions neither serves the global order nor return to elitist origins, but instead deeply embedded within progressive movements. And the privilege shouldn't speak for others' choice, like groups telling their own stories or letting elites construct the narrative for them. Durazo. Institution of higher learning tells excluded to come to sit down and shut up. You're welcome as long as you conform to our norms. I spoke when I was being undermined. That is how I'm able to write this article right here. Chicano studies marked with legacy resistance in search decolonization, Sherman to assert the silenced narratives, communities, carving liberatory spaces in the active industrial complex. Our task is expand the capacity to listen to the voices muted by universities' heteronormative orderings. And even if free speech doesn't completely solve neoliberalism, it plants seeds for new possibilities working the academy, is key to transforming the academy. Opara 4. Culture will see a very different possible future rather than seeking to eradicate institution alone. I just demand democratization, higher education. The first step is a radical transformation of liberation academy from militarization corporations. We put a privilege work in masking, unsettling, invisible, and toxic relationships. This college line with the organized practice states massive at spending on prisons. Spending on prisons, university run by four constitutions, possibilities opened by actively military prison industrial complex, abolitionism, and one more card that I will send you in a. Actually, that's fine. Part 4 is the unreview. One speech codes are ineffective at solving hate speech. 3 reasons. 8-point reverse enforcement. Empiric speech codes are primarily enforced against minorities. ACLU 1. Codes-driven counterproductive capacity to less administrators, not with victims of hate speech, and the Race Relations Act, proceed actively, proceed active colors, while racists go and punish Michigan. Whites in 20 cases towards black students with offensive speech. These point speech codes drive oppression underground. Students can't mobilize against actors, and they can't actually see racism itself. Caleras. All things being equal, race is no more dangerous. One is not known instead. On speaking of troubling agenda might observe the rule against bigoted speech, engage in more injurious conduct, leads such paper trail. ASU campus operation field pit played on residence doors. Was offensive many saw who police confiscated the posters. Most conspicuous one woman on the floor, rule printing to display. Church revealing his values, depriving of valuable information. Bigotry is best revealed. And here's where I will read the extra cards. We'll send you a second. Seize the point they glorify oppressive speakers, which makes them martyrs instead. Strauss in 90. Sensitive effect glorifying speakers that expression resulted, getting more attention unachieved, putting government race speakers appear as martyrs or heroes, suppressing speech, increase attention. D-point speech codes can't be enforced because we can't define hate speech, it's too big, which proves no solvency. Strauss in 90. Formally include definition, including hate speech, then comments variable discourse and scored by, interact and beauties and campus rules, acknowledge offensive, even traditionally insulting epithets, would, even furniture insurance, inflict the various situations where you're ceding power to the government to speak and choose who's worse to protect. Free expression exists only for those with power. Ease the point speech codes face a double bind, either effect very little speech, or if they go for they get struck down in the face. Cholera's. Guess wrong, gets the wrong line to correct and correct speech. Court will declare false and constitutional, and lost in a battle. We draw more carefully, sanctuary speech instead. Either way, little longer to play climate campuses, real progress comes at activism. Second, liberation requires specific injustice, even if ideology is generally bad. We must analyze critical cases, solve PAPA 16. There's started assuming just large, assuming static attorneys, real estate situation on globalism, pathological rights, premise, colonialism, reproductive unique situation, force cause domination, vary case by case. There's the one causal explanation. I'll send you the 3 cards I had. They were just right before the last card I read, but I'll put this in the doc right now. Okay, I'm sending it right now. Okay, sent. Ready for CX?
Yeah. Good.
Yep.
The Chatterjee and Mary evidence is from an article that says the university is sort of always neoliberal and there's sort of no hope for academic change.
That's based on your I know you read that to your cap case based on misinterpretation. Chatterjee's argument is that the only hope is to make radical demands upon it through bottom-up movements like protests.
What protests exist now that are making the kind of radical demands you described?
Well, the argument is that protests can be effective because the university cracks down. But it gives the example of the Opara evidence. Opara 2 gives the example of the campaign Not on Our Money was able to protest Sodexo Marriott, which was deeply intertwined with schools, and was able to create movements against that, which is an example. But it gives the example of the UC schools, where literally they considered bringing in tanks to criminalize dissent. People weren't able to speak out, and whenever they tried to, it was made prohibitively expensive, which ensures militarization. So even if free speech itself is not ultimately good, the idea is that speech codes ensure militarized enforcement, and being able to combat that by speaking out is overall important.
So the underview stuff, there are different kinds of speech codes that is now, i.e. like fighting words, document, these types of things. Why have they not expanded and been misapplied in the way that you described to just limit all free speech always?
Well, they have been expanded. There's legal modeling means that often one code can be the base of another. For example, University of Michigan codes have been modeled in other areas as well.
No, those are like sort of non-legal speech codes.
Sorry, I don't follow.
My question is based on these sort of legal exceptions. So fighting words is not constitutional protected speech. These things are speech codes that exist in status quo that are legislated as okay. Why?
Sure, the difference is fighting words are intended to incite violence directly, so there are obviously certain exceptions. The applicant discusses constitutionally protected speech. Things like fighting words are different because if I go to someone, I like stand in their face and I'm ready to...
Why have those speech codes not expanded or been misapplied in the way that you...
Well, I would argue they have been expanded to include constitutionally protected speech, which is what the app is discussing. That speech codes that do include constitutionally protected speech could be considered expansions of those.
Okay. Durazo evidence. What is privilege or who is privileged?
Sure. This argument is that people must construct their own narratives and not rely on elites to do it for them. So it's like a reason why we should consider people's viewpoints. The author herself even says she was able to write this article because she was able to use things like free speech and not be silenced. Which shows
doesn't that imply that there's already enough free speech for people?
No, it does not. It shows one person
able to write the article.
Well, no, maybe she was not on a campus that had restrictive speech codes. It gives an example of how some communities were able to fight back against neoliberalism and get change. The impacts are all evident. The impacts are linear.
I'm curious about the sort of stuff we talked a little earlier about how you described how there are movements now that are effective. Why is the app key if there's movements like the Opara?
Because there are still colleges that have speech codes that are encroaching upon freedom, and we should get rid of it for those colleges too.
Okay. $122 left.
It's 2 off, please.
Where in case? It'll be a down in the bathroom.
Okay.
Like my way.
Sure. So, should I sign for the jump on a separate sheet?
I mean, you can go.
Okay. Let me just get my internet. It's Wi-Fi, it's not free.
I had to hotspot it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is there a hotspot in here?
Well, I have one.
You got that one?
No, it's not. If you want, you can just put it on the drive again. I think that's cool.
Sounds good.
Thanks. I got it. It's right there. What's it called?
1NC Emory Quarter.
Okay. I'm good when you are.
Everyone good?
Yep.
3K, right?
2K.
2.
The endpoint of the 1 is the anti-black status quo, black justified in terms of ontological structural attachment of white civil society that is reproduced by any attempt to use existing legal structures or philosophies. Warren 13D at the goalpost of rescue with historical plots, 105 of the inevitable fields for the human is nothing more than boss of our boss of conscious, human is nature, ontological attachment without the world, which teaches the ontological black security matters of the human and black as exclusion of the names, ontological ethics, skills, literacy, the ontological ground of one, which situation is not filtered, document something from the practices of practice, we know, over this exclusion, and this all above, place in the opposite box of identity politics or sociological ideas, ontological absence, black is a fungible object, open to gratuitous violence in a void of rational capacity, RL 13, structural vulnerability for proficiency, students appear to recognize this like with the slip free links expanded points out the contradict condition of violence in accordance with the transgender law violence against black security deciding grudge justification for their center gonna massacre black existence of self-knowledge objective and spatial battery black suspensibles and anything like vote for release to anyone clicks out code the demand for legal relief is professional slavery bowing down making slave bow down before the master partly applied the movers and reduce segregation toward others for whatever blacks human become with most one of not to the move slavery insult the required some slavery is a lie told the rule of law is it for example the best for the best structures of free wealthy state blocks, phosphorus, what inflation with the very basis of historic and late capitalism's expropriation, the confiscation of the confiscation capacities and of capital from people of color, not the accumulation that their authors talk about. It flips their root cause claims. That means that we are key to the absolvents. This is also a giant linking argument of Fraser 16. Integral to capitalist development, expropriation, accumulation by the means of exploitation, confiscating capacities and resources restricted to capital, circuit the expropriation of members of sovereign increasing confiscated access to labor, only also human sexual reproductive capacities, social and organs clearly fair practices associated with their capital early history slavery, expropriation also sees a modern forms of such as labor exploitation, place overwhelming construction of slavery cast a wage of contract exploited proletariat to carry the work of every sexual life change, frustration states, only capitalist velocity and regular increased development capacities, racial subjects, and thus the alternative is to embrace the demand and say the end of the world will listen to this realization of justice, liberation, functions and negative development, refusal to affirm complete sort of almost basic clearance, and most all the states, states, fulfill these works always affirm the position of clearance on behalf of the position of clearance coalitions operating within civil society, functionalists, and revolutionary promises more, cutting up like antagonism, civil war reclaims like this advice, politically negative side of absolute dereliction, where civil society center framing issue there, refusal to engage in discussions of the way blackness shapes the world, will lose in Mississippi, Sex 316, the inclusion justifies places ethics the reality is that remove the angels and the study of the virtue, the search for method of getting each to the rush back to the structure of mountain rights, on ask questions why the sexual found such illusion is optimistic, a depiction of the world for the choice by the future scholars, a decline of the world, they were just wrong things that failed to reject about their own why, a trans moralistic accusation, political intellectual opportunity, a term stating the world is the London from the activism is understood, as such a related comes of such a the conscious transition brings about the activity of the no about his transcendence is foreclosed in the modern world. Next up. Title IX investigations are increasing. King Yeats 16 growing. Title IX investigation officer. Title IX investigation of the harassment. Sexual harassment in the 15 educational institutions. Basically, the above street Title IX investigations have been highlighted, and increased investigations are a crucial way to hold schools accountable. Bricker 12. Title IX remains crucial to take harsh number of sexual violence. Title IX seeking for reformer at Princeton, Duke, UVA, Harvard, and Yale. As a university, displays misogyny seriously and creative repressive victims classifying discrimination and should be effective at holding institutions accountable. And the AFGUT effectiveness in Title IX and causes First Amendment opportunism. Shower 04 First Amendment is ensuring because of the solution to be multiple against an actors who perceive virtues of opportunity strategies with a military First Amendment strategy. Conditions according to guide corporate municipal multiplicity claims about security possible claims possible more credible multiplicity now plausible. Let's get the way they give you issue traction in sexual harassment in the classroom as a result of patriarchal bonds and debates. Academia sexual harassment plays represents an oppressive use of power. Effective harassers and kills participation in sales of the harassment. And Thompson 82 widespread authority receives sexual gender stratification finds sexual harassment. There is an excess power with moral authority. Men can engage over sexual behaviors and about their relationship with the subordinate. The students supposed to evaluate the record of the future of wide latitude and degree of interaction. Military analysis, sexual harassment, and power plays administration, interest, authority, which undermine women and greatly improving graduation rate. The AFGIL's graduation rates, AFGIL's diversity, Bricker 12, Title IX gold, was major women education changes. Notice on degree having low earning undergraduate men. Degrees men and then over adoption degrees 47%, legal degrees 48% of medical degrees compared to 7 and 9%. Diversity is key to competitiveness. Hyman and Jacobs 09. Diversity explains willingness possibly the first opportunity for real action with diversity of social development. Diversity is future occurs special and then first more sensitive workforce across able to religion, culture, background, diversity students working in a global society, diversity promotion, promotes critical thinking, diversity manifest power, education, development, liberation from episodic viewpoints, loss of U.S. competitiveness affects all countries around the world, causes widespread poverty. Puerto Rican 12 structural changes preparedly for the American 2019 living standards, years competitive challenges, nations, competitive issues, instead of real to be nation will generate high pursue goals of true competitiveness, so they're more productive, will generate high level wage poverty, church, foreign investments, fuel stable growth, huge use for the stages, may wage to be better to be improvements, and more countries to be new, but then other countries pursue the American, the decline for competitiveness from the not only the U.S. global economy, diminished large national economies, legal, disease innovation for influence, shaping and for an open trade case. The act is false hope, speaking within existing institutions and capital society is counterproductive and obscures your role class plays an existing expression. Monzo 14, practice becomes civic engagement, reforms being increased opportunities of the conception of liberation, reform, freedom and political conception of freedom, speech, press, democratic conception, freedom is untenable and capital objective, reform, recognition of destruction inherent in capital, except for revolutionary change, the race has a role of capitalism, the majority cannot afford that, struggle, exploitation, movement, importance to struggle, must be struggles against classy university plays the central role of production of altruism and the rest of the love has led to corporation which is right the University, Capital Trustee, automatic role of University Place, social problems, education, as a commodity, scholarly job project there, being a refugee, palatable, just the corporate university functions to, diversity to, when there's hot topic becomes a different to business interest, ultimately we can do a common capital trust, the marketplace of ideas, the idea we can sort of speak out and make changes is terrible, government influence creates chilling affected, acts as a piety for broader reform, just send to evidence instead of action, the outcomes of proceeding can worth big change possible, angering for the clear presentation of self, that's what government wish to, critics stress when they speech, threats, perspective, growth, exception, as soon as becomes a rules make speech is conscious, as long as manufacturing raising of the test without having things which is overseen, no warning test, architectural, legal, not against the invention trust, no much detail, continues uncertainty, chill, risk for speakers who, within a graphical, but all political judgment makes to receive little no protection because they will appear as for the political constitution, also which belongs to definitely focus on a procedure as business, a substantive action triggers delayed disputes over a solution are converted to abuse of all press rather than a focus on the draft of the debate or lawsuit or not, or should be left to a state demonstration forming except for office procedural based challenging the technical being linked in procedural history while there are open issues. Ask yourself at the end of this round if there are already movements in status quo, what does the act do? Our answer is nothing.
Okay, so you skipped the last part.
Yeah.
Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Status of the critique.
Unconda.
Unconda, can it result in the app? Like a floating pick?
It is not a floating pick, no.
Okay, awesome. Let's discuss what the alternative does then. Embrace the demand of the slave. Is this a literal burning or just like the unflinching paradigmatic demand?
Where'd you get burning from?
Like literal revolution. That's what Farley writes about.
Not Farley. The argument in the Wilson evidence is when black people sort of refuse structures of society, so acknowledge that society is unethical, refuse the demand to sort of be sucked into existing movements, existing philosophies,
that sounds
things.
Got it.
It is sort of an individually.
That's fine. Let's talk about the links. Where does the app use the law?
So, one, you sort of base the app in institutions.
Read to me specific lines from the one you see that are links to the K.
So I think you're talking about the Farley evidence, and the argument is the sort of idea that we can move forward using power is bad because it ends up reproducing.
Wait, the app is a negative state action. If the state is doing something like, I don't know, carrying out genocide on people, can we tell the state to stop doing that?
One, the state is carrying genocide on people. Two,
can we?
Doesn't
answer the question. Can we tell them not to do that?
That's what the alt is.
Okay. The ontology arguments. Should we have not ended slavery?
No, we definitely should have. Our argument is that it did.
But should we have it in the 18th?
Physical law that says slaves are okay ended. Our argument is
should we have not done that?
Progress has
Evan, you're not answering the question. Should we have not had that physical law?
Okay.
Yes
the
or no?
law was meaningless, is what our argument is.
It is a yes
or no.
It
does not matter whether the answer is not a yes or no answer. The answer is it does not matter like the physical doctrine of ending slavery because
okay,
it had
fine.
no
The alternative,
change.
if people are truly ontologically dead, then how does the what is the net benefits of voting negative? Like what is the alt? If people are truly dead, how can things ever get better? Like what does the alt do then?
So number one, our argument is the alt allows agencies with, so in other words, social life within social death. So even if it is true that ontology is like fixed, it is sort of a productive for people's agency to do so.
Sure, that's fine.
Second is that the alternative is the sort of only ethical.
Sure, that's fine. The Title IX just said, can you name to me a single school that has had funding cut because of Title IX? Because not a single one has ever had it cut.
That's not what our argument is.
Then what is the internal link is increased investigations, right? Name a single school that is actually...
Hold on, you're talking about like either yours or Harper's Title IX dissad. Our internal link, the argument in the dissad is that you cause opportunism. In other words, when you expand the First Amendment, other litigators say there's been a massive First Amendment expansion and use that as a defense for their clients who sexually harass. Obviously, sexual harassment is a bad thing.
But if Title IX is not enforced, how do you access your internal link?
Hold on. First off, we read evidence. Title IX is super effective.
Name a single school where it's been effective.
The Bricker 12 evidence, the first one, says Title IX remains a crucial tool to take a harsher line on rape and sexual violence.
Yes, and so they seek reform in these schools. Where do you show that it actually was effective, Evan?
So the Bricker 12 evidence, the second one, says Title IX goal was to make sure...
Yes, the goal. Where does that show efficacy?
Changes to a study degree happened, women earning more undergraduate degrees than men, and overtook them in doctoral degrees. It gives like specific graduate rates.
Okay, I'll start from. 135.
No, you're not.
135.
Yeah.
I resemble that.
I'll send out the doc.
Did you perchance happen to write each time that I looked?
Yeah, you had 122.
There is like shock all over the desk, and it is slowly but surely destroying my pants.
The terms are very 1970s as it relates to the shock and whatever.
That is true. It's also clear that they don't have like a board cleaner or anyone. Does no one get in trouble? What's going on?
Okay, it's the same doc as before. I'm just, it's the bottom of the document. And my Wi-Fi is not working. I'll just put it on the drive, and I can give the flash drive to the judges if they need. Is that okay? Okay.
Did you share your internet not working?
Yeah, it's still not connecting for me.
I think it's before the
Sorry?
I think before the
Yeah, of course. Mr. Timmons returns. Do you want the drive now? Okay. Okay, I'll just put it up.
Oh no.
Bumble, bumble.
Oh no.
So the order will be the case, starting on the roll the ballot, and straight down the 1AC, then his dump K dissent.
Wait, hold on, I missed that.
It'll be the roll the ballot of the app, extensions and stuff. Straight down your turns, then critique dissent.
Case, got it.
Okay.
There's the same doc.
Yeah, just very bottom.
I'm gonna use that one.
Sure. Case with the roll the ballot, and then an overview, and then I'll signpost.
Okay.
Is everyone ready?
Give me 2 seconds.
Yep. Take your time.
Go.
Okay. Evan completely misunderstood the 1AC. It's not a question of capitalism, rather it's a question of movements against oppression through bottom-up strategies, and the roll the ballot endorses the better liberation strategy for the oppressed. He doesn't link to the roll the ballot because it's actually upper liberation strategy. People just sit back and imagine things, whereas material condition gets still physically worse, which means that it's try or die for the AF. Now, over to the AF offense proper. Any risk of offense being the vote AF because the K has no terminal impact of things like resentment or the state is so deeply entrenched right now, then any risk of the AF being a good idea means you vote AF because if things are true, then the alt will, if things are as bad as they can possibly get, then the alt would solve it. But a risk of AF offense overall sufficient now. Extend part 2 with Godred 1 militarization is coming in. The status quo state is literally cracking down. People are facing oppression through the universities. UC Berkeley brought in tanks, which outweighs the dissent on cyclical harms, eye control, terminal uniqueness, things like patriarch inevitable, the mistake cracks down upon certain bodies, and sees them as disposable in the first place, which makes movements against oppression impossible. Now the solvency. There are so many preempts to the K, and they're conceding out of the 1AC and OPAR 3, the very last card. The AC allows for radical strategies, even if I use the state slightly. It is a way of making demands upon the state and allowing movements against oppression. People fight back, which turns the K so hard in that ways in time frame. It is a sequence of questioning alternative. The only way to fight back the state is to burn it down through a bottom-up action like the AF allows to occur, which is overall key. Now the underview. I'm going for the reasons why I'm going for the Pappas evidence, which has been completely conceded out of the 1AC extends second underview. Particularities, good root cause claims, ignore specificity, epistemologically forced denomination always vary, which takes out the case so hard, even if they want, for example, that anti-blackness occurs in many situations. It often varies why it occurs, which means that saying the law is always bad is not sufficient. So, a particular demand to say is overall key. Now, there are case arguments. The first response was Monzo about why speaking out is a false hope. No, it doesn't. It does overall occur. For example, certain schools like the UC schools, they got rid of Sodexo merit, which shows that changes occur through a limited demand upon the state. I don't say I solve for all cap, rather, it is a way demand upon the state. Their second response, anger about the marketplace ideas being bad. There is no link, though. I discuss why speech codes are worse against black people. I do not say free speech is overall good, rather, that we should get rid of bad speech codes so it's try or die for the AF. Now the K. The link work in the 1 and 2 shoddy at best, group 1 and 13, and RL about why ontology first turn the app's negative state action cuts back on the state. Code reinforcements minorities in the status quo. The app gets rid of those codes, which is a way of fighting back the state and ensuring overall social change. Second, no link wrong K to Wilderson discusses state action itself, the offense, colleges, universities, not these state which are missing any offense. That's why the app's actually bad. Third, empirics confirm conditions improve. Only 13. Reaction reach product currents and civil rights errors, irreversible, including Designation Voting Rights Act, Immigration Act, 11 Virginia, Civil Rights Act, important victories, transform rape civil society itself. 3, turn speech codes show radical black activism, even for scarcely black voices are not get heard, which means the asked prior question, Colaris 95. South African Americans student benefited from absolute free speech, ASU, Bernard Bonner, the African leader bended his outrage of recent posters, opinion letter, secured his right to speak in line with that fear of sent discipline, Mark the card of discipline. Actually now the alternative proper. First, perm do the all for free speech disputed movements. If we actually fight back statement to speak out in college campuses, the perm shields all their links and means that it's charged off the app because the alt is literally the same thing as the 1AC as a way of ensuring bottom-up strategy. Second, perm do both. Allow free speech in civil society. This is radical potential. Wilderson 16. We're trying to now infuse added tech orientation black people in college, so whatever street trains running you can do organize now. We need that police fatalities, educate yourself being as police while working to transform the other strength we have in the revolutionary mode. Black Lives Matter, only grand job organizing, political organizing. Let's use space for educational project. 3, perm to the alt in all other instances. We should protect the state except for the 1AC. If the alt strong enough to become the AC, you can definitely stand the harms of the status quo, which means the absolute good idea. Now, the dissent. First, funding cuts are towards investigation take decade. Title IX's ineffective. Thomas Levin, 1998, USC accused 9 people students fair chance. The federal agency still investigating inquiries. Title IX has to use progress schools to fill by the law office with 600 employees. Juggling cases, routinely asked investigations. Second, non-unique. Their evidence uniqueness is so bad it literally just says there's a backload of cases right now. They're not actually investigating the cases. They're not showing any reason why investigations are actually occurring. 3, the case that weighs in size like they rely on several internal links, each increasing probability. Whereas my facts are showing any status quo. What is empirically verified to the case is more likely. I'll send you a mark, Doc.
I mean, you didn't read the last ACLU card, and you didn't read
Lloyd, and I marked Colaris at censorship or discipline.
Yeah.
Okay, you find them?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
Wait, you didn't read Newman either,
No, I did not.
or Wilkerson at all. Hold on.
No, I read it. I'll do it. I said like skip it. Yeah. I read the Wilderson 16 part of the proof.
Yeah, I got that. And then Claire's kind of. Did we say 122?
Yeah, you had 122.
It'll be the disad, the case, the critique.
Okay, so just that first. Yeah, cool. Are you reading anything new?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Repeat the order one more time, please.
Disad, case, critique.
Okay.
Is everyone good?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rob, you will lose this debate on the dissent. You've heard there are precisely three arguments. The first is that uniqueness has backlogs. No, the Kenyan evidence says they're increasing right now. That they've actively gone up in the status quo, which means we better uniqueness. You also prefer our carded evidence over sort of random analytical sources. That's the Thomas evidence. This has nothing to do with funding. That is the answer to a different Title IX dissent. The last argument is the AF outweighs because it happens status quo. So to sexual harassment, this isn't an argument. The story of the dissent is that Title IX investigations are increasing right now, but the AF causes First Amendment opportunism where lawyers and litigants say, hey, the First Amendment is expanding in this area, and they use that to justify that they're defending their clients who sexually harass people. This causes the sexual harassment to go unchallenged. The Bexton and Thompson evidence is conceded. It says that that kind of sexual harassment is a patriarchal form of domination that excludes people from the academy. It causes women to be systemically excluded from classroom conditions, but also turns the entire of the 1AC because it means they're excluded from movements because they're being sexually harassed while they're trying to protest. It also outweighs the case because it sort of is a systemic problem that is caused by sort of a nexus of power, which is all in our Thompson case evidence, which outweighs the case and was conceded. The Hyman evidence says that kind of diversity training is key to diversity within the workforce. It causes it to sort of rebound across the world. And the Porter evidence says that kind of competitiveness is key to global poverty, which outweighs the case. Even if the case is a high probability, you conceded this scenario, so it does as well, which means it outweighs the case because it plunges a bunch of people in global poverty, which obviously worse than a couple of protesters. The case. The Monzo evidence is unfortunately not considered and not responded to. The only argument I have is that the case is effective, but our evidence would sort of refute that. You say that it's not about capitalism, but other things, but our argument is that when we challenge capitalism, i.e. literally all of your unique claims about sort of the neoliberal university, the Chatterjee articles about neoliberalism, which means sort of when you challenge the neoliberal university in that context, it doesn't cause sort of broad reform. It may cause like individual tiny concessions by the university, but they will just shift their sort of paradigm to oppress people in other ways. But you go and throw your hands up and say, we did something good, which means that in the long run it is substantially worse. This card is pretty excellent and it is not responded to the Ingber evidence. There are three conceding points I'll go for. The only response is that you say that we don't say all speech is good. That's not what the card says. The first is that there's sort of a chilling effect because speech codes are presented ex post facto. Things like the clear present danger test are still exist in the world of the app because that is not constitutionally protected speech. It is just not what the app is, but it still exists and it is now ex post facto. It happens after the fact. 2 days after you say something, the administration says you couldn't have said that and censors you, which causes people to not want to speak out and turns the case because there are no more protests. It is worse than the status quo because at least they are upfront about speech codes, the status quo, as opposed to in the world of the app. The second is that the clear presentation stops any kind of real speech because anytime the university perceives there to be an incitement or any kind of incitement to action, it is considered a clear present danger. It is censored anyways. Terminal defense in the case that is conceded. The last is that the app focuses on process as opposed to content. They talk about where and when people can speak, which dooms us to endless debates about sort of the way in which we can speak or how we can speak, but doesn't actually get us to the content of actually resolving those things. The power cross-application of the affluence radical stuff, all of this takes out the ARPA evidence, so there's no turn. The Pappas evidence will be answered on the K, but even so, specificity flows negative because the how do I actually be on the K more clear?
And this liberation strategy thing is silly. The alt-liberation strategy doesn't. There's really bright lines of what that does or does not mean. Okay, proper.
You've conceded all of the ontological claims. I'll go for gratuitous violence that violence against black people is beyond justification, exceeds utility, and killing, torture, black states for pleasure, separating while black people studying disease affect black communities. All prove the AF assumes violence can be solved using rational legal procedures, but if the violence is fundamentally irrational, the AF only perpetuates that. The RL13 evidence that takes out your arguments about negative state action and how you're not the state because it means that the sort of violence that you cause or you try to solve with a rational legal policy, even if it's not the state specifically, it's still sort of a rational attempt to resolve an irrational violence, means it always fails. The OMI evidence is responded to by the Warren card. The Foundation for Civil Society who book backs of slaves said the set of emancipation advocates returned to slaves non-human sexually in opposition to humanist legal systems that seek to promote freedom. Slaves are thus ontologically excluded from civil society, which means that even if it's true that there have been sort of broad historical trends that have made sort of material conditions better, the reason that there are still more people, black people in prison, there are slaves that Trayvon could walk in the street and get shot for having skills that black guys happens every single day in the news, just simply doesn't care about it, or constantly shows videos about black people physically dying because people love that kind of thing. All of these sort of processes by which we any blackness is here to stay, even if there have been slight contingent problems, that sort of a system that will always reproduce those things has not gone away. The which means that there's no sort of solvency. Also doesn't prove the app is good. The turns will disprove that. Next, you see these free speech card declares evidence. All the turns on case would answer the free speech is good because they don't actually allow free speech. Even so, our argument is that sort of the concept of civil society and speaking out against it is not sufficient to resolve the alternative, but that'll be clear on the alt debate, so go there. The alternative is to embrace the demand of the slave and destroy civil society. Civil society is founded on the destruction of the black. The incoherent demand of slaves as an object destroys the fabric of civil society. It is the only chance to destroy. This is empirically successful. The Haitian Revolution proves we can destroy white society. It's also the only ethical demand that anything else sort of legitimizes these systems of society that forward gratuitous violence. The permutation to the alt is intrinsic because the alt is obviously a different text than the app, which means that it's not the app. It's also the perm to both. The Wilson evidence is not in the context of the app. The Wilson 16 evidence about sort of things like radical police reform, or asking for sort of radical changes. The Turns On case proved that is not what the app is, but also the app policy alone is not necessarily consistent with those things, which means this is not sufficient to result in permutation. You say all other instances, that is intrinsic. We don't say all other instances. That just adds to the permutation. First is legalistic coherence. The Farley evidence says when we sort of demand legal changes, that allows us to justify oppression. The gratuitous violence stuff is a reason that rational solutions can never change, but attempt to reinscribe violence, which is bad.
Okay. I had 135. I'll take that. Okay, cool. The order will be the alternative of the K on the permutations. Then it'll be case, actually alt to the K on the permutations, then like the links to the K, then case descent. Is everyone good? So I'm starting on the terms. Okay, everyone set?
Yeah, good.
Sure. Jacob, you good?
Yeah, no, good.
Cool. It is choose your lose. You can't go for every single different thing and expect to win the debate. The framing issue, they go for the dis at the K, and spend like 5 seconds of the perms, which means I win the debate here because they shield the dis in my first response off the alternative. Perm do the alternative, same thing as the 1AC. They say we should end the entire world, and they demand from the state the opposite type of demand by letting people speak out against oppression themselves. He says perm is intrinsic. Clearly it's not, though. The alt is an example of the 1AC voting app means eliminate speech to avoid radical demand. He's dropped the perm shield the link. It is over, which takes to the dis ad. If the alt is the same thing as the 1AC, the dis ad links equally to the alternative, and you vote out on trial document because the only the AC enables actual strategies. They say legal solutions are dis out of the permutation. The app is not legalistic, though. They're conceding analysis about why a revolutionary action presupposes we fight make demands from the state through getting rid of speech codes and people fighting back. Also to the second perm with Wilderson 16, which is so good in this question. The AC's way of entering educational movements against oppression. The only way to get a radical demand, you say it's not about that stuff. It literally says black students must engage in an educational orientation, which is antagonistic, which is what the AC enables to occur, which means even if he wins the dis ad, the perm shields the links, which has been conceded now, the link's proper. It's in the first turn, the app's negative state action cuts back upon the state. Even if the data is generally bad, the AC takes away laws and fights back conceded link turn. Then it's in OMI 13, which is also evidence in the ontology debate things are overall getting better. For example, social movements like civil rights are affected. You say more people in prison, industrial complex enslaved, obviously the count of population, though there are still a few people enslaved. Indicate those proportionality, which answers back to violence turns things are overall getting better. What is a net benefit to the permutation? I resolve violence. The case. The framing issue here is they're conceding all of the weighings on as to why the case outweighs the dis ad. Extend part 2 with God's rights, the neoliberal state is cracking down on the status quo, enduring criminalization. People themselves literally can't speak out, they brought in tanks. Extend the dropped weighing this outweighs the dis ad and cyclical harms. Even if you win things like patriarchy occur, that is a result of neoliberal state and criminalization, which means we control terminally negates their impacts. Concede weighing out of the 1 AR means the case outweighs their offense. And I enable us to fight back the state by getting rid of these codes, which means all I have to do is be back the case turns and I win. Go to the turns proper. The framing issue here is he's not responding to the warrants of my argument. arguments he extends. More zone says speaking out is false hope, but it's in my response. I make a demand upon the state. I don't say we should solve all of capitalism. Rather, we just solve this one instantiation of capital domination in which the state is militarized. You say we never challenge all neoliberalism. Yes, the one is a step in the right direction. The path of evidence and embedded class here shows that it is a good demand to ensure we solve for some things, which means as long as solve for the speech is being enforced, the app is still a good idea. They also extend Ingram 84, but it's in my response, the app is not a workplace. It is rather the reason you vote app is try or die speech codes are only enforced against black students, are only enforced against through military strategy. You say chilling effect occurs. That is not responsible because the AC is the way of fighting back these harms. The case debate is a slam dunk for me because I've won. The reason why that way is now the dissat. He is getting fleeced on the arguments about the uniqueness because not responding to the warrants. Extend Thompson 11, which is so good. It's not about funding, rather it's about why Title IX is never enforced. It gives examples of colleges that have never actually done anything, which answers the internal link in the dissat. There is no model effect because Title IX is never actually enforced. Then it's my second response, a non-unique, that any status not investigating it. And the card literally says the first line of Bricker, the growing backlash is increasing. They say it turns case doesn't matter though because I've won the eternal uniqueness framing. So I've won the perm though, which seals wins everything they go for. Yeah, want my computer or should I use the drive?
Hold on. I have Wi-Fi. I can just send it.
Okay, that makes sense.